I'm going to explain how to implement a dash behavior to the player and also its related UI component. Let me first explain the setup. So we have a player and a ground. For player, we are using the character controller to control it. And we have two scripts already attached to it, which is the player controller and the mouse look. So for the player controller, it's just using WASD to control the player, and for mouse look is to making the player always looking at our mouse. So let's see how it looks. So you can see we can use WASD to move the player, and when our mouse rotate around the player, it will always pointing to our mouse. So that's the setup. Now let's start implement the dash controller. So we first attach a script to our player object, and then let's go to the script. So inside the script, we first need to define some variable, which is the controller and a public float represent the dash speed, and another float represent the time we take for a dash. So you can also make this a public one, but for now I'm just going to make this a private, and another vector for identify the direction the player dash to. And in the start, let's first initialize our controller to set this as get component character controller. And then inside the update, in this time we're going to use IE enumerator for the dash. So when we press maybe some key, let's just say space. So when we press space, we're going to perform dash here. We first define our direction. So since our game object is always facing our mouse, and we definitely want our object to dash towards our mouse. So in this way, the direction will just be transform forward. So if you're interested to the mouse look script, which controls the character to make it always point to the mouse, you can check this script. It's pretty simple, and I'm not going to explain this here. And then we're going to use the IE enumerator for the dash. So let's first call it. Okay, dash. Oh, it should be numerator. So we first have a float, which is the start time, and we're going to set up this as the time.time. And while our time.time is less than the start time plus the dash time, which means we're going to keep moving our object during the time, we have controller.move, which is direction times dash speed times time delta time, and in this time we have yield. Okay, so this will be a functional dash behavior, I think. When we press the space, nothing happens. All right, let's see why this is happening. Direction, yeah. dash speed. Okay, okay, I forgot to set up the dash speed. So let's just say 30 here, and let's try again. And when I press the space, we can see the object is moving in a very fast speed, which is a dash to our mouse. All right. So next, I'm going to implement the cooling behavior and the cooling down UI for the dash. So let's first making the UI, and you just open the icon and create a image, and we just drag this icon here. Okay, so we have our little dash icon. And I'm going to set up this as like the bottom center. You can set up anywhere you want, and we name it as dash icon. All right. So how we want the UI looks if the dash is in cooling down? We can do this. We first duplicate a dash icon. And let's say this dash icon cover. And we set up this color to maybe a darker one. All right, yeah, like this. And for the image type, we're going to make this a field. And so after this, when we changing the field amount, you can see it will be exactly what we want. But sometimes the rotation and the how it rotation might you can also change that. So for here, let's make the field origin to be the top, and set up this as a counterclockwise. So now let's see, that's exactly what we expect as a cooling down UI. Oh, let's rename this as the cover. All right, now we just attach this to the player, and let's go back to the script to see how can we implement the icon in our script. So before everything, we need to using the Unity engine .ui. And next, let's set up some variables for the UI. So first we have a public float, which is the dash cooldown. That represents the frequency you can perform a dash. And we have a timer float, a bow is which kind of a helper is cooling false, and then we have our image dash icon cover. Okay, so let's first set up our dash icon cover. We will have a get component in children. We cannot just say image here because the dash icon cover is not the only image in our player component, but we can refer to the canvas here, since the canvas is the only canvas right now, and we use .transform and find. This is to find the image based on its name, which is dash icon cover, and get component. Image. All right. Now next, inside our update, we want to show when the isCooling is false, then means that it's ready to perform a dash. But when the isCooling is true, we need to use a timer to run the timer to making our cooldown start decreasing. So let's set up timer as time. Oh, sorry. Let's change this to timer. Okay. Time.delta time. And then during this time, we want to make the dash icon the fill amount change from which is from 1 to 0. And what we can do is dash icon cover dot fill amount equals dash cooling down minus the timer, and then divide by the dash cooling down. So this formula will give us the amount at a certain time the cooling icon should be. And then inside this, after the timer is ready, after we run the timer to our dash cooldown time, we need to set up the cooling back to the false. Then inside our input get key, press space. When we press space, we also need to check if our is cooling is true. So when our is cooling is false, when our is cooling is false, then we are ready to perform a dash. If not, nothing happened. And I'm going to move everything here. Then after we perform the dash, we need to make the timer go back to 0. And also the is cooling should be true to make it the timer start calculating the cooling. And we set up the icon fill amount back to 1. Alright. So now this looks should be functional. Let's go back to the game and see. So we set up the dash cooldown maybe 2 seconds. Alright. Let's see. Yeah, it's functional as what I want. So when we perform the dash, the icon will start cooling, and when it's not ready, we are not able to perform dash, and when it's ready, we can perform the next one. So that's it. Thanks for watching.